That was a great introduction to a presentation that I had prepared for today and changed this morning in the shower, as a matter of fact. I had, and I still have them out there if you'd like to see them. I have props, I have slides, I have handouts to talk about leadership and our role in leadership. But you know, something happened in my life this morning that changed what I'm going to do today. I got a phone call from a friend's wife. Now this friend is going through some difficult times right now. He's been diagnosed with a particular type of cancer. It's a very painful type of cancer. And he's uncertain at this point in his life. As a matter of fact, I had planned, Gary, I have to apologize to you, I had planned on being here at about 7:30 this morning before everyone else. But I felt called upon to make sure that I was there for that friend of mine. So I called him and I said, look, I need your help today. I have a presentation prepared that's going to change people's lives and what they think about leadership. But that's not what I need to do today. I need you to come with me and inspire me to do the right thing. So that individual is sitting in the audience today, and I want to thank him for coming. What I'd rather talk to you about is the impact that one person can make on another person's life. A simple act of charity, of friendship, of compassion can change a person's life forever. That happened to me this morning. A phone call changed my life today and what I'm going to do. So what I'd rather do is maybe share a couple stories of events in my life that have brought me to the point in life that I am today. I grew up in Philadelphia in the early 50s, and I never knew I was poor. Still don't think I was poor. I know my dad made $84 a week. That was his paycheck. I made more than that as a PFC in the Marine Corps. But we pooled their money, the family money, and all lived together in a home. We really didn't kind of make it on that. No one was making a lot of money in those days in Philadelphia. So I went out and got a job very early and soon realized that I was going to have to contribute in a larger way. At 14 years old, I left home, not because I was a bad kid, but because we couldn't afford to feed everyone. At 15, I quit high school. I got a full-time job and a part-time job and tried to sustain myself, but also tried to contribute to the family. That didn't work out either. At 15, I wasn't real smart, so I quit high school. At 16, I went back again and tried it again. At 17, still not being able to make it, I quit high school, and when I was 17 years and 2 days old, I went into the Marine Corps. Kind of a last hope for me, to tell you the truth. There were 3 men that I was introduced to my first day in boot camp who changed my life forever. Here I was, a high school dropout, height of the Vietnam War, uncertain of my future. Those 3 men helped me to realize what my potential was. I want to talk about another guy too. When I left high school the second time, I got a letter in the mail a couple months later from one of my teachers. His first name is Mr. His last name was Spencer. And in this letter, he said, I hope you're doing well. I know you're out there. I know you're trying. But remember, God has given you a gift. You have no choice in this matter. You have to pursue your education. I said, who is this guy? And I rolled it up, tossed it in a trash can. A couple months later, I get another letter in the mail. Same thing. I said, geez. So I kind of put the letter aside. Time went on, I went into the Marines in boot camp. I got another letter from this guy. Mike, God has given you a gift. You can't waste that. You have to pursue your education. There's things, he has great things planned for you. I said, geez, I got a lot of other things to worry about. The last thing I need to worry about is education. But I kept getting the letters. Every 2 or 3 months, I'd get a letter from this guy, Mr. Spencer. So when I got out of boot camp, I went to my first duty station, I went to the base education officer, and I said, hey, I got to get my high school diploma. I said, I got this guy keeps writing to me. He's not going to get off my back. So he says, well, we've got a thing called a GED. You take a test and you get an equivalency. I said, great, sign me up. I go and I take the test. I pass it the first time. I do well. In the state of Pennsylvania at that time, and I suspect this is still true, the high school could award you a high school diploma based on that GED certificate. So my first opportunity for leave, there I go, back to the high school. Hey, I got my GED. I'd like my high school diploma. And they looked at me like I was crazy. He said, no, we're not giving you any high school diploma. I said, no, you don't understand. Here's the statute. You can do that. We know that, but we're not giving you a high school diploma. Cool. I'm a young kid, but I go away, just hurt. I go back to the base education officer and I said, hey, what do I need to do here? They wouldn't give it to me. He says, well, there's a thing called a state equivalency exam. A little more difficult. You have to actually go to classes. I was hesitant on that, but I did it, and take a much harder test. Back to the high school I go afterwards. No, they're not going to give it to me. Well, I put that aside for a while. I go on in my life, and I get to a point to where I'm selected for a program in the Marine Corps to go out and finish a college degree and become a commissioned officer. Great opportunity. The guys must have been inebriated when they selected me for it, but off to the University of Oklahoma I go. I get my degree. Back to the high school I go. I want my high school diploma. It's embarrassing. I go to fill out a form. I got to leave that blank. Year graduated high school. I can put it in the college thing, but I can't put it in the high school thing. I want my high school diploma. No, we're not giving it to you. By now I'm married. I've got kids. I remember going back home and talking to my wife saying, you know, I don't understand these guys. They just won't do it. I put that aside for a while longer. I eventually retire from the Marines and take a job as a chief of police in a small town in Missouri. That was 22 years ago. That's hard to believe. A little bit of time goes by in that job, and I still have it on my mind. Wait a minute. I have to get that high school diploma. Mr. Spencer said I got to have it. So I go to Lindenwood University, and I finish up a master's degree. Back to the university I go, or back to the high school I go. All right, guys, I understand all the stuff about, so I promise you, I'm not going to tell anybody that you gave me my high school diploma. I don't want to see anybody dropping out of high school. I said, but honestly, and I'm a little smug when I say this because I'm mad. I said, you know, I've spent all this time and all this energy in pursuit of this high school diploma. Won't you please give it to me? And what do you think they said? No, we're not going to do it. That time, I remember going back, and I remember saying to the head of the high school, you know, I have more education than most of the people that are teaching at this organization. I don't understand. So I go home and I tell my wife, you know, hon, I'm going to finish up this career here as a police officer, and then I'm going to go back to Pennsylvania. I'm going to get my doctorate, and I'm going to take over the Department of Education, and I'm going to award myself a high school diploma. I had a small consulting business at the time with a guy who became my closest friend in life, other than my wife, a guy named Chris DiGiuseppe, and he's not here today. He had to go out of town, but he's certainly here in spirit. He's the co-author of the book, The Lightbringer, that we wrote. We had one of those dinners, and I know everybody here knows what I'm talking about. We had this little consulting business, but we never made any money in it. What we did do was take our wives to dinner at a nice restaurant once a year, and the business paid for it. It was a great deal. So we're out. It was just the partners and their wives. We're out. My wife and I walk into the restaurant. Actually, it was a very famous restaurant in Lake St. Louis, Donatelli's. We walk into this restaurant, and I see one of my sons. I said, Patty, what are you doing? What's he doing here? Well, I don't know. A few moments later, another one walks in. A few minutes later, my third son comes in from out of town. And I'm so mad now, I've got steam coming out of my ears. That was probably about a $40 steak, $45 steak. I didn't taste a single morsel of it. It just went down my throat. I get through dinner, And I tell the partner, I tell Chris, I said, you know, I'll pay for the dinner. Just send me the check. God, I feel terrible about this. He said, Chief, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We get almost through with dinner, and this friend of mine reaches up and takes his knife and tinks the glass and stands up. Oh my God, is he going to announce this? Jeez. He starts telling the story about my high school diploma to these people that are sitting at the table, to my wife, to my children, to his wife, to the other guests that we had there. And he ends it with saying, you know, I work for one of the most tenacious men I've ever met in my life. He says he's tried all these years to get that high school diploma. He said, so about 2 years ago, I started working on that. And he reached down in a bag and pulled up one of my most valuable possessions, my high school diploma. I got to tell you, at home I have an office. Sitting in my office, there's my undergraduate degree, there's my graduate degree, but out in front of both of them is my high school diploma. Did he make a difference in my life? Did Mr. Spencer make a difference in my life? Did the friend whose wife called me this morning make a very positive difference in my life? Absolutely. There's a small card that's going to be passed out to you. And I would like each and every one of you to take that card, put it in your wallet, put it in your purse, put it wherever you want for now. But when you go home, I'd like you to put that on your mirror. And I'd like you to remind yourself every day, the small things that we do in life, those little acts of compassion, those little acts of kindness and friendship, they change people's lives. They change our life. That friend who happens to be sitting here today had no idea what he was coming to today, had no idea that I was going to talk about him, I'm sure. But I want to thank him for what he brought to my life today. I'll tell you one more quick story, and then I'll wrap it up. About 8 years ago, I started, and I'm a fairly physical guy, 22 years in the Marine Corps, 22 years as a police chief. I've done some physical things. About 8 years ago, I started losing weight very rapidly. My hair started turning color and eventually wound up white. And then I eventually wound up losing every hair on my body. They had trouble diagnosing it, but for those of you who have heard of this, I have lupus. I had never heard of lupus, never knew what it was in my life. It was very important to me that my people that work with me not be afraid and not be worried about me. So I didn't tell them. I did tell 2 people, my captain, Chris DiGiuseppe, and my secretary. I had a barber coming into the office in those days, cutting my hair, and I told my secretary, call Angie, tell her I'm going to have to cut my hair. I don't have any left, and I'm going to have to shave it, and she needs to show me how. That same day, one of my detectives went to my captain and said, hey, what's up with the chief? God, he looks terrible. He looks like he's dying. My captain jokingly says, hey, he's going to shave his head. He's coming over to the other side like me. That detective got a real serious look on his face. By the time the woman showed up to show me how to shave my head, I had 28 sworn officers that worked for me at the time. 14 of them had made appointments with her to have their head shaved, to include a woman. So I ask you, these burdens that we have in life, when we have people that come into our lives and touch our lives, aren't they really the greatest blessings that we could ever have? And shouldn't we really think about passing those blessings to others? Thank you very much.